Hello everyone. In today's video we'll be discussing about chemistry of carbohydrates. So we're all aware carbohydrates are the organic substances which are made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, and carbohydrates are the molecules of support and energy. Okay, and most of the carbohydrates, they are fit into empirical formula CnH2ON. So it literally indicates carbon is surrounded by hydroxyl and hydrogen molecules, right? So in technical terms, hydrates of carbon. The term carbohydrate and saccharides are closely related. Though this term saccharide related to sweet substances. Okay, so most of the carbohydrates are sweet in nature. That's why carbohydrate and saccharides are closely related. And the most abundant carbohydrate in nature, polysaccharides, complex carbohydrates such as starch in plants, glycogen in animals, and the most simple carbohydrate in our body, that is glucose, which is source of energy. Source of energy. So saccharide literally comes from the Latin word saccharide. This saccharide word, this literally coming from the Latin language. Okay, and in other language, Sanskrit, it is sacchara, and then in Greek it is saccharon. So which are all means for a sweet substance. So coming to the importance of carbohydrates. So as I mentioned earlier, carbohydrates are the organic molecules which are widely distributed in nature in the form of starch in plants, in the form of glycogen in animals. So, and apart from this, most of the carbohydrates are the key intermediates of metabolisms. Sugars such as glyceraldehyde, dihydroxyacetone, ribose, erythrose. So all these are key intermediates of metabolism such as glycolysis and in HMP shunt, hexose monoose phosphate pathway. And apart from this, the structural component of plants, especially by cellulose. Okay, the plant cell walls are made up of a carbohydrate called as cellulose. And commercial importance of carbohydrates in paper industry and also in fiber industry. The key important point of carbohydrate is they are the major components in many food sources such as sugars. What are the sugars we are using? Cane sugar, which is made up of sucrose. It is a type of carbohydrate, disaccharide, and flours, wheat flour, rice flour, which consists major carbohydrate, starch, and vegetable fiber, cellulose. So these are the importance of the carbohydrates. Okay, now coming to the definition of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates defined as polyhydroxyaldehydes or polyhydroxyketones. Remember, once again I am repeating, carbohydrates defined as polyhydroxyaldehydes or polyhydroxyketones are the compounds which yield these substances on hydrolysis. So here I have showed you two examples, glucose and fructose. So you see here glucose and fructose both are 6 carbon compounds. 6 carbon compounds such as hexoses, they will come under category hexoses. So if you go through the structure of glucose, you see here many hydroxyl groups are there, and these are all surrounding the carbon compound, right? So that's why the functional group here is aldehyde group. So that's why technically you can define carbohydrate as polyhydroxyaldehyde or polyhydroxyketones. So coming to the fructose, you see here this is the keto group. Okay, and it is also surrounded by many hydroxyl groups. So here how our body converting complex carbohydrates into simple carbohydrates, okay, by using digestive system. Okay, glycogen is a complex carbohydrate present in animals. So when we consume starch or glycogen by the help of the enzyme alpha amylase, which is present in our saliva as well as in our digestive tract, okay, stomach, Okay, this enzyme secreted from the pancreas, okay, it converts complex carbohydrate into simple carbohydrate, that is glucose units, because glucose is the simplest form of carbohydrate which is necessary for us to produce energy. Yes, let us discuss about functions of carbohydrates. Okay, so coming to the functions of carbohydrates, energy. Okay, the first function of carbohydrate is to provide energy by using simple carbohydrate, that is glucose. And second point, that is intermediate of metabolism. Okay, so most of the carbohydrates are the part of metabolisms, okay, as a intermediates. I have given example in the earlier slide, that as glucose, glucose 6-phosphate, fructose 6-phosphate, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, glyceroldehyde 3-phosphate, dihydroxyacetone phosphate in glycolysis, and in HMP shunt, glucose 6-phosphate, erythrose, ribose, pseudoheptulose, all these are intermediates of metabolism such as HMP shunt. Okay, and storage form of energy. So in animals as glycogen, okay, and in plants as starch. Okay, and structural components. Okay, so apart from the function energy production, few carbohydrates perform their function in structural aspects such as cellulose in cell wall formation in plants, okay, and in cell membrane formation in eukaryotes such as in animals. And in fibers, so in fibers we have already discussed, cellulose is the prominent type of carbohydrate exists in a fiber form in plants, and they are constituents of nucleates. Other function is they are constituents of nucleotides such as DNA, RNA, and in few water soluble vitamins such as riboflavin. Okay, by which form of carbohydrate used here? Pentose sugar, that is ribose. Ribose is the sugar or carbohydrate which is used in formation of DNA, RNA, and few water soluble vitamins such as riboflavin. Okay, and the last function is detoxification. Detoxification in the sense converting toxic substances into non-toxic substances, or else you can say converting whatever the substance that is not soluble in our body, that is toxic to us. So the main point in detoxification is converting insoluble substance into soluble one. Okay, so there are different mechanisms are there in detoxification. One such mechanism is conjugation mechanism or conjugation reaction. This specially takes place in liver, okay, in conversion of bilirubin, toxic insoluble bilirubin into soluble non-toxic bilirubin. Okay, so there you require one of the form of carbohydrate such as glucose converting into glucuronic acid. This glucuronic acid is useful in conjugation mechanisms. So these are the overall functions of carbohydrates in our body. One is source of energy, and they play a major role in participating as a key intermediates of metabolisms. Okay, and third one is they serves as storage form of energy in animals as glycogen, where it will be stored in liver and in muscles. And structural components such as by using cellulose in formation of cell wall in plants, and cell membrane formation in eukaryotes and animals. And fibers, cellulose is a prominent dietary fiber, okay, which has got clinical functions in prevention of constipation and prevention of large intestine cancers. Okay, and constituents of nucleotides. Nucleotides are the building blocks of nucleic acids such as DNA and RNA, okay, by using pentose sugar ribose. And detoxification reactions, especially conjugation reactions, conversion of insoluble bilirubin to soluble bilirubin. Yes, here I am showing you few slides explaining the terms, okay, such as aldose. Okay, what is aldose? What is ketose? What is triose? What is tetrose? What is aldopentose? And what is ketohexose? So aldose. So any carbohydrate which contains functional group CHO. Okay, any carbohydrate which contain CHO known as aldose. Okay, or any carbohydrate which contain keto group C double bond O. Okay, C double bond is a keto group. Okay, the carbohydrate which contains a keto group known as ketoses. Okay, and triose is nothing but any compound which contains 3 carbons, C1, C2 and C3. So any carbohydrate which contains 3 carbons known as triose. Same way, if any carbohydrate which contains 4 carbons, that is known as tetrose. Okay, if any carbohydrate which contains 5 carbons, that is known as pentose. Similarly, any carbohydrate which contains 6 carbons, that is known as hexose, right? So now I can give one example, that such as aldopentose. So how you write the structure aldopentose? So aldose means a carbohydrate which contain a functional group aldehyde, and pentose which indicates it should have 5 carbons, right? So here I am drawing. So the functional, it is aldopentose, right? So CHO has to be there and 5 carbons. Right, you see here. So 5 carbons are there, C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. 5 carbons are there. So aldopentose, it should have 5 carbons. At the same time, it is also a functional group aldehyde. Right. So similarly, all the monosaccharides you can name in this way. Okay. Suppose ketohexose. So ketohexose, in the sense the functional group supposed to be ketone group, right? So I will draw the structure of fructose here. So ketohexose, that means this carbohydrate should have a functional group, a ketone group, okay, and it should have 6 carbons. So example for ketohexose is fructose.